All right, welcome everyone from Therapist Toolbox community. Woo. Glad to see you guys today. We're going to do a 30-minute overview on this topic of engaging the extended family, and we'll have time for some Q&A at the end. So thank you for coming today. I just started these on Friday called Family Trauma Solutions Friday. That's exclusively for our community. I'm part of this community. I love this community. And the reason I started these is that each week I'll have a special topic. Next week will be on healing child suicidal threats. This week, of course, is extended family. And the reason I decided to really do this was because I just saw a real need for tools to go not just for working with the traumatized child, but the entire traumatized family. And my mission was to just really help people become better at being family trauma experts. So thank you for coming to see my life's work. And I'll begin. And then as we go on, just feel free to put questions in your chat bar or a Q&A bar, because we'll have some time at the end. And I may even ask you guys to come in and talk with me a little bit during this Facebook Live. So hopefully it's be very interactive today and a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and get started. So today's topic is on the extended family. And actually, I'm doing a special 1 hour in-depth dive. So this kind of is like getting into the why. And if you're inspired and want to go deeper in this topic, please, at the end of today, just go to familytrauma.com and just hit the button register live or on demand. It's free. And I'll be giving a great overview today, and then, doing a real deep dive on next Wednesday. And if you can't come live, that's okay. You'll get it on demand. And so this is kind of a really good, like I said, overview. So where this is coming from is a book called Treating the Traumatized Child. It was written about 2 years ago, and it turned into the Family Trauma Institute. And the model I'm going to be sharing with you is the Family Systems Trauma Model. And articles and future talks are housed at familytrauma.com. So in this research that we did, in actually 10 years to complete this work, we saw that there are 12 core techniques that emerged from this work. And I'm going to share with you technique number 6, engaging the extended family. Now, in our research, and you may have also felt this way, engaging the extended family is oftentimes not typically done in traditional mental health. And I want to start by talking about why I think this is, and also get your input as well. So the tools today that you'll walk away with is really a clear sense of why we're not doing more of this engagement. And I see this as unrealized potential. Human beings are community. We need community. In fact, some cultures, this is the norm, where if somebody in the family was hurting, the village would come around the family and help. That's why that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. After we talk about what your hunches and my hunches are as whys, there's barriers here. I want to just spend a few minutes to talk about what I think is one of the biggest reasons what's in it for us to have the extended family, around the idea of who before what. I'll share the work from an unlikely contributor to today, a business researcher called Jim Collins, who wrote a famous business book, Good to Great, where he surveyed top CEOs of top companies. He called them 10Xers. And he asked them, what makes your company better than everyone else in your industry? And the answer is who before what was one of the core things. And I saw that this pivoted really well with mental health. So I think you'll be curious and interested in that finding. Then I want to leave you with a tool. The handout will be posted in our community page, so look for it after today's session. These slides will all be available to you, and in there will be 2 handouts. One is a village handout, and one is how to conduct what's called a town meeting. And in next Wednesday's more deeper dive, I'll actually be showing video clips of the family I'm going to highlight today as a case study, and then also do a deeper dive in these handouts. And so, like I said, next Wednesday is more of the deeper dive. All right, so let's go to the number 1. And we're going to be here for 30 minutes because I know your time is really precious right now too. So I'll keep to the time of 30 minutes. So why is the extended family so important? Well, if you guys would help me out, what do you think is your hunch or theory around why actively involving the village, i.e. the extended family, so I use those synonymous with each other, is not typically done in trauma treatment? So let's go to the chat bar. There's no right or wrong answer here, but what do you think is a reason why we don't actively involve the entire village? What do you guys think? Let's see some of your answers here. Just put in your chat bar, what do you think is a reason why we do not invite okay, so Brock says time consuming. So Brock, would you unmute your phone and tell me a little bit about that, if you could? Because I'd love to just interact with you if you would unmute your phone. Hi, Brock, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, time consuming is a great answer, by the way. What made you put that one down?
Well, I just said time consuming because I know let me first say I'm just an intern. I'm in the master's program for counseling.
Yep.
But I just put time consuming because I know appointments are like 50 minutes, and the more people we involve, the more time it takes to really engage each individual. So that's why I said time consuming.
And you're not just an intern, by the way. That is awesome that you are pursuing this career, especially today. So congratulations on that. And I think you are definitely right on. Time consuming. Many of us only have 50 minutes. And when we bring more people in, would you agree, Brock, it gets more complex, right? More people to run interference. And isn't it even a little scary at times?
Yes, very scary, depending on like the personality of the client.
Yeah, so raise your hand if you agree with Brock, okay? So Brock, you are right on. So thank you for sharing that, because that is one of the reasons. And so Kristen said confidentiality issues, good one. Jessica said it can distract from the patient's healing. Kimmy says that people's view on what's considered family, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my top 2 and see if you can relate to this. It kind of goes a little bit with Brock, but it goes a little bit, I further expound on it. So let me show you my screen here and tell you that these were my top 2. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but number 1 for me it was scary. Okay. So I can kind of relate to Brock, but here's where the scary part came for me. Family therapy with just the immediate family that lived under the house, whatever house that was, and however they defined family, scared me to death. Now, if I add the complexity of the extended family, I get really overwhelmed. And I ask myself, do I have what it takes? In fact, my first job right out of school, I was a new MSW, graduated from Florida State. and I was on the children's unit, and I was the family therapist. And when I brought in the immediate family, that alone was daunting, because when I asked them how do they feel or why they're there, they would almost literally metaphorically throw up on each other emotionally. And I lost control of the session. And then when I brought the grandparents in, all heck broke loose. So I stopped doing extended family work because it was scary. The second reason is I lacked the step-by-step tools. I would say to myself, what do I do with a room of 6 people? And like Brock said, I only have 50 minutes. So that's not a lot of time. And they may really despise each other, especially ex-spouses. Okay. And only a slight provocation, they would explode. And what do I do with everyone's roles? I remember a grandfather said to me, he's like, Scott, what do we do? I mean, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to call my daughter on the phone to support her? Do you want me to go over to the house when the child's aggressive? My grandchild is, I don't know what to do. And so I really liked wraparound. I learned wraparound, but one of the things that I did not get as much as I would want from wraparound is what to do when everybody was in the room. And so these were 2 fears I had to overcome. And at some point I said, well, it's not that important. Well, here's where it changed for me. Who before what? So I'm an avid reader, and I like to learn about mental health, not only from the mental health literature, but from business. And I like to see systems. And so, like I said, and this was posted in our community just, I think, yesterday, day before, Jim Collin writes, who before what, and uses the metaphor of the bus. And he makes a convincing argument here. He says when he interviewed CEOs, Jeff Bezos was famously quoted, I think, he said, I'd rather interview 1,000 people and not hire anyone than hire the wrong person. And I agree with that, because what Collins says is that we got to get the right people on the bus. We got to get the wrong people off the bus. And we got to get the right people in the right seats. Now, this made an impact on me. I think this book came out in the 90s, if I recall correctly. And I said to myself, boy, I personally start with what before who. What's the goal of treatment? How many of you agree that this makes sense? Put in your chat bar, who before what? That we sometimes don't have it. And Deborah says yes with 2 exclamation points. Okay. And the role of the extended family can be helpful, but unless they're neutralized, if they're not helpful, it can create chaos. How many of you have experienced this? Like it or not, this happens, where the child is extremely creative to find loopholes. And if they don't like the answer from their parents, they'll call their grandparents and say, you won't believe how horrible my parents are. And the grandparents say, there, we agree with you. And the child's all empowered. And the child triangulates or divides and conquers. Let's talk about institutions. How many of you had this happen? My son did this the other day, by the way, where he said to me, Jonathan, you won't believe what my teachers are saying about you. Oh, really? Okay. When I called the teacher, my son was doing a great maneuver of dividing and conquering. And unless I had the foresight to check out those assumptions, that would have divided the teachers from the parents. So it's a huge thing of who before what. Now, let me give you a case example of what happens in your practice when you move more towards who before what, and then practical tools to increase the odds dramatically that we can not only engage the extended family, but move to what to do with them. I think sometimes our work is odds, increasing odds. I mean, like I used to live in Las Vegas, so I'll use the metaphor of, can we increase the odds? There's no guarantee that we can win and help in this way. So I want to help increase the odds of this area. So I often am asked to be a consultant. And when people take some of these webinars, they circle back around with me, and I get the privilege and honor of working with stuck cases. Tawanda has a stuck case. She took this particular technique and she says, I agree philosophically with you, Dr. Sells, Scott, what before who, that's what I've been doing. I can see this in this case. I'm just seeing the immediate family and the individual child, Dylan, and I believe the key people are not in the room. Now, Dylan is 15 years old. He came to residential treatment for aggression, and he's been in residential for 6 months, and he's about to go home. I worry that the parents are not on the same page. There was a bitter custody battle. I'm only seeing the biological mom and the stepfather. The biological dad and the stepmother is on the West Coast, and the mother continuously blocks me and says, I don't like my ex, I hate my ex, and I don't want you to contact my ex. But I know that when I meet with Dylan in individual counseling, he says one of the biggest reasons why I'm having problems is I'm caught in the middle and being used as a battering ram between, the families. To further exacerbate this, the grandparents are also involved. Remember that earlier example I said is Dylan will freely triangulate and call the grandparents if he doesn't like what he's getting from his mom. So this is the term I want you to consider to add to your arsenal of toolkits is conceptual, battle for structure. I'll never forget one of the most important things that I want to share with you. Whoever controls the definition of the problem controls the treatment outcome. Let me repeat that because it's so important. Whoever controls the definition of the problem controls the outcome, and you are in what's called a battle for structure with your clients. And one of the battles for structure is who before what. So what I mean by this is, like, let's say the parents come in with the definition that I think that the reason my child's having a problem is it's a chemical imbalance. Evidence doesn't support that for that particular case, but the parent is convinced of that. If that definition of the problem lives on, the treatment goals will be more psychotropic or hospitalization. And so when you try to battle for structure with the parents and say, excuse me, I think the evidence is pointing that the child doesn't have limits, needs more structure, needs more boundaries. The parents are pulling on you saying, no, we don't like your definition of the problem. This extends to this paradigm. When you're saying to them, we really need the grandparents involved because of the triangulation that's going on. And so you're in this battle of who's going to show up for your first telemedicine or at any point in treatment. That's what was faced with Tawanda. She's like, look, I'm losing the battle for structure. The biological mother says, no way. But I know that relapse will occur not if, but when Dylan comes to an unchanged family. So what happens here is that type in yes if you've experienced this battle for structure. With who? How many of you have experienced battle for structure around who before what? Let me see. Okay, Deborah. Deborah has experienced definitely yes. Okay. And Deborah, could I take your phone off mute to see if to say more about that?
Sure. I have actually been using, well, I have a 5-year-old that is, I'm going to see for the third time, but I've seen it in couples, like recently today, where the extended family, they have their own problems, are creating other problems. So I actually just dealt with this today, where we talked about setting boundaries and that sort of thing. So that's primarily I'm with couples, but
you're right on
I have
point.
a few kids.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So thank you very much. And if you could just put your phone back on mute. Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, Deborah brings up a good point. Let me just go ahead. Thanks, Deborah. This could be in any genre. It could be with couples. It could be with individuals. This battle for structure really helped me because cognitively, when I'm getting to these points of tension, I know it's coming. I know to put a word in my cognition, like I'm in battle for structure right now. And the implications of losing this battle are that treatment can end prematurely. If I lose the battle, I could become more of a maintainer, like maintenance mode. And it can happen at any point. So this battle for structure could happen around the goals of treatment, but it also happens around who shows up for the session. So I'm going to focus on battle for structure around that because in this particular case, Tawanda knows that she's losing this battle on this front. Okay. So here, let me show you what I suggest as a consultant. And something I'd like you to try as an experiment, if you wouldn't mind, for those of you watching or on today. So we want to try to increase the odds of turning the village no into the village yes. So here's what my first obstacle was. How many of you have experienced this? Do you have a village? It's a yes or no question. No. Or you get, we have a village, but we've burned their bridges. Or no, I don't want to bring them in because I don't think it's helpful. So when I used to ask a closed-ended question, I always, most of the time, not always, get no or it won't work. And then it was a dead end. I was like, oh, I don't have a plan B. So, okay, great. You just won that battle. Okay. So I would just move on. Now I'm a little more tenacious. I will now, as standard operating procedure, go for the village handout. Now, this is a handout we developed, and if you come next Wednesday, you'll get a copy of this handout, okay? Today, I just want to give an overview. So I said to Tawanda, I said, don't get into a battle with the mom. Just hand this out and say, I do this with every family. I just would like you to write the names of every villager and whether they're supportive or not supportive. There's power when an artist asks the clients to put their paint on the canvas. Even though you don't have used the paint to paint a picture yet, there's something powerful to actually put names on it. So mom says ex-spouse, grandparents, and then she put non-supportive, and sometimes more, it's a mixed bag. You'll see this canvas of supportive and non-supportive people. So then Tawanda said, that worked really good. It opened up the discussion. It was like visually seeing it helped a little bit. But they still said, mom said, I don't know. So I said, here's what you do as your second pivot. Everybody wants to know WIMF. what's in it for me, okay? And so I said to Wanda, I want you to carve out a narrative of that we're here for Dylan, that the marriage did not last, but you guys are always going to be parents. That intrigued the mom. And this, again, I'm going to show this case on Wednesday so you can see this battle that goes on. But I asked Tawanda to say to the family, I want to give you what it would be like if I did bring the village in. It would move from therapy to me being more of a mediator. I would call a town meeting, okay? I would pass this out like a board of directors would pass out an agenda. I would be very focused. I would set boundaries. I would say that if you guys go into fighting with each other and moving into areas that don't concern Dylan, I will yell, freeze, stop, time out. Do I have your permission? We will do introductions. We will discuss the problem at hand, which is Dylan successfully reintegrating back home without relapse. We're going to brainstorm solutions. We're going to prioritize solutions. We're going to clarify roles in writing. We're going to do dress rehearsals. And finally, we're going to bring Dylan in and deliver this. Tawanda said, now we might tweak this for your family, but are you getting, Mom, why this is necessary and that I will be able to handle the fallout of emotion and, tension. This is an exhibit A. Now this got the mom very, very curious. And then Tawanda said, what do we have to lose as an experiment? And then I came in, and I will show you Wednesday what I did as the leader of this. And you can see we'll be showing a sample of what a town meeting looks like, so you can kind of see this town meeting in process, because I believe in experiential learning is really the best kind of learning. So today, I want you to really leave with these three things: a better understanding of why we don't involve the extended family, a better understanding of the importance of who before what, and the 2 village handouts, which is, the getting the family to talk about their village like a canvas, and then pivoting to a town meeting so that it can be organized. So again, if this is of interest to you and you want to go deeper, please do. And then, this is me. And then next week, I'm going to be talking about, same time, but next week we'll be talking about child suicide ideation and what to do. So if you have colleagues and want to bring them to come in, please do. And if you're interested in this style of learning, I hope to see you as well. So let me see if there's any questions you have. Allison is helping me out here, so I'll unmute Allison. Allison, some questions that came in, and if you could unmute your phone here. Are you there? See if she's can. Oh. Okay, all right. Well, here's a couple questions that I have seen from the last one I did on this topic a while back. One question was, what do you do if you try the diagnostic, village handout and the family is still skeptical? Well, one of the things that I emphasized a little bit earlier, but I want to emphasize even more, and again, if you have some questions, feel free to put those in your chat bar. But the key is there's 2 ways to change stuck systems. Now, I learned more of the traditional way, which is to get clients to think their way into a new way of acting, which means that I would use persuasion and, insight-oriented treatment to get the client to say, I never thought of it that way before, and that would elicit change. Now, here's the other way that I found sometimes to be more successful, is that you can get clients to act their way into a new way of thinking. Let me say that again. Act their way into a way of thinking. So I come from a model of structural strategic family therapy. And the founder of strategic family therapy is Jay Haley. And I was blessed to be an apprentice with Jay Haley before he passed away. And I used to have discussions with him on this. And he said, you know, I've seen that when you get in systems theory, a small change where you get people to fake it till they make it, that it has a simultaneously shift in emotions and insights. People feel better. So where I apply this, and what I recommended to Wanda, was we have Zoom, so distance doesn't matter. So even though the biological father is on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast, we can do this town meeting over Zoom. And do you have enough trust in me to experiment with this to see what happens? Now, I know you don't believe this is going to work. I've heard you say that many times. But what do we have to lose to try? And that dialogue got Mom to say, you're right. We don't have much to lose, especially since I know how organized this is going to be through the town meeting agenda. I'm willing to try. So what you're going to see on Wednesday is that people are like, this is working. Acting my way into a new way of thinking. So that's something that if you like an approach that is very directive and action oriented, this approach will really fit your toolbox. So I want to thank you guys today for coming. I hope to see some of you next Friday, same time, same bat channel. Look for the PowerPoint slides on our community page. And I'll answer some more questions if you guys post. And otherwise, I'll see some of you on Wednesday and some of you on Friday. So have a great weekend, everybody. Until next time, take care. Bye, everybody.